Hi, how are you? I'm well, considering everything. I want to say that I'm looking forward and not looking forward to going to hospital tomorrow, but I'm well. Great. Hope you've had a good day. I will be going through the article today. I saw your email. I was so busy I forgot to reply. How's the volume, by the way? Can you hear me well? Ah, perfect. So it would seem that we have resolved the volume issues. All I needed to do was move the phone slightly to the right or slightly to the left to pick up the microphone. Sometimes it's the simple things, right? Ah, seems like they're busy today, or at least not here yet. I'll wait for the first person to show up. It's never been like this before. There's at least one early on. Maybe I can just... Yes, exactly. Because it's going to be posted anyway. So, hello everybody. My name is Drew. I'm an English language consultant from the UK, London, and I'm here with you every Monday, hopefully, to go through different aspects of English and to help you improve your English, give you a little bit more confidence, and hopefully bring your English to the next level. Today we are going to talk about the article, which is very problematic for many people. Many people don't know when to use it or even which one to use. So today I'm going to try to clarify that for you, and hopefully you'll understand. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, or you can even post questions on the Instagram, and we'll try to answer it as best as we can. So, to begin with, I want to talk about the different articles that we have. We have firstly a or an, and then we have the. I'm actually going to say the or the, depending on the pronunciation. So, when do we use a and when do we use an? Now, it's to do with not just the vowel, but the vowel sound. So, this is why we say a red car. Red, it's a hard consonant sound, and so we say When you have the softer vowel sounds, this is when you would use an. So we would say an apple. If we put the colour red in front of apple, then we lose the soft vowel sound, and it will be a red apple. Now, not many people think about this, but the exact same thing works with the or the. So I would say the red car. Obviously, clearly, when you are writing, it doesn't make any difference. But when you are speaking, it makes a difference, because we actually say, we wouldn't say the apple, it's more natural to say the apple. The apple is tasty. So there's a subtle difference. The red car, the apple. And you can see it's very smooth when we say it. The apple was tasty. The red car drove down the road. Many people, incorrectly, use one, or want to use one, instead of using a or an. This is incorrect. For example, well, it depends on the situation. For example, if I say, I saw one man in the shop today. This is incorrect. You can only use one if you're talking about one of many. For example, I saw 3 men in the shop today. One man bought an umbrella. So the correct way, if we're just talking about one, the correct thing to say would be, I saw a man in the shop today. So only use one if you're talking about one of many. Okay, so that's when to use, this is basically when to use the different sounds, an, the, and when not to use one. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Many languages that don't have the article, such as Slavic languages, Russian, Czech, Polish, Ukrainian, it's very difficult to understand or even appreciate that how necessary the article is in English. Sometimes if you don't use it or you use it incorrectly, it can be very confusing, and it can confuse the person that you're speaking to. So let's talk about when we use it and why we use it. Firstly, I want to talk about the definite article, the. We firstly use this when we talk about something that there is only one of. For example, okay, this isn't all the time, because in English there are always going to be exceptions, but I'll tell you about this. The Pope. Visited the Pope visited Dublin. We always say the Pope because we're highlighting that there is only one. We say the Pope, we say the internet. In casual speech, some people may say internet, but it should be the internet. The moon, the Prime Minister, obviously the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the King of Spain. So if we're talking about something when there's only one, the sun, the moon, we always use the definite article. Also, when we are talking about something in context that you understand, then we would use the definite article. For example, what was the example I have? I can say something like, my house is opposite the church. My house is opposite the church. I will say the church even if I haven't already mentioned it, because you'll understand if you have to find your way to my house and you see the church, you'll understand exactly that my house would be opposite to the church. So this is another way that we use the definite article. Now, comparing the definite, we'll talk a little bit more about the definite article a little bit later, but I want to highlight when the indefinite article becomes the definite article. So the indefinite article is and an. So when we initially start talking about a subject or a noun, a singular noun, then we would use a or an. We use this because the person that we are communicating to, they wouldn't know what we're talking about. So this is how we introduce the noun to somebody. An example could be, I saw a fantastic car outside of work today. I saw a fantastic car outside of work. Now, I would use a because I'm introducing the car to the person I'm communicating to. And so now that person understands what car I'm talking about. Now, after I've introduced the car, every other time I talk about that particular car, I would say the, because the person or people I'm communicating with, they will understand what car I mean. So, I saw a fantastic car outside of work today. The car was a Porsche. The car was red. It was... it's the car of my dreams. So every time I keep on speaking about the red Porsche that I've already introduced, then I use the definite article. So when introducing something, or even when introducing something, we use a or an. As we continue speaking about it, then we use the definite article. Now, even when I start explaining things about the car, things that are new, I would have to use so the car has a dashboard. It has What do cars have? It has a gear stick. Yeah. So I'm introducing everything, and then once I've introduced it, I move from the indefinite article to the definite article. So this is how we change from the indefinite article. So just by the name indefinite, we don't know exactly what we're talking about, to the definite article. So getting back to the definite article, the, when else do we use it? When we are talking about certain things, I'm going to write this for you. The bank, the post office, the cinema, the theatre, the supermarket. Now let's talk about a few of these. The bank and the post office, I would say I need to go to the bank today. And I have to say the bank. I can't say bank. I think I've told you the story about one of my students when they said to me, can we rearrange our appointment because I need to go to bank, she said. Now this was in London, and there is a place in London called Bank. So you can understand that by her saying this, I understood that she needed to go to the place, not the place where you keep your money, the bank. So you can see how important it is in this case to use the article, the bank. Now, when we say the bank, the post office, the cinema, the theatre, and the supermarket, it's a little bit contradictory because I told you before that when you use the definite article, you know exactly what you're talking about, which place or which object. But in this case, even if you do know which one, maybe you say, I'm going to the bank, and you know exactly which bank you're going to. But maybe it doesn't matter which bank you're going to, but we still use the definite article. And it could mean any bank. If I'm going to be precise, then I would say something like, I'm going to the post office at the bottom of Tottenham Court Road. Then I'm being precise. If I need to maybe ask, I have two choices. I can say, where is the post office? Or I can say something like, is there a post office in this area? This is really the only time when you would say a post office. Otherwise you'd say the post office. I'm in the post office, I'm in the bank. It's the same for all of these. Interestingly, with cinema, theatre, and even supermarket, normally when you say you're going to the cinema, you have a good idea which cinema you're thinking about. But in the case of, in this case, it really doesn't matter. What you're doing is you're talking about your intentions, your plans, and it means to go to the place that's going to show you films, or if you want to call them movies, the cinema. And in this case, it really doesn't matter where the cinema is. It's more of the action. Same with the theatre or even the opera as well. Now there are, let me write this, university, school, college, nursery, or even kindergarten. So when we are talking about university, school, college, nursery or kindergarten, we as a general, well, we don't use the article. We don't use the article when we are talking about these places in terms of what they are for. And what are they for? They're for education, well, let's say education. For example, we would say, my brother goes to university, not my brother goes to the university. So my brother goes to university, not my brother goes to the university. Her children go to school. Her children go to school. My sister is in college. Her youngest child is in nursery or goes to nursery. So we do not use the article when we're talking about these places in terms of what they are used for. And I say what they are used for. You go to school, college, university to receive education. So when we think about it in these terms, then we don't use the article. If we consider the building, the actual building that is the university, the school or the college, then it's possible to use the article. For example, outside the school. So Doreen met her daughter outside the school. Doreen met her daughter outside the school. Now, when I use the school in this situation, I am talking about the actual building. I'm not talking about the place where you go to get your education. Apart from school, college, university, you could also, this rule also applies with church. Also, what else do we use it? Hospital. Go to hospital. Sometimes when you talk about church and hospitals, because there are so many, depending on how you're using them, particularly with hospital, it is then possible to say the hospital, but generally you don't need to use it. Church, absolutely not. Normally when people go to church, there's a particular church that they go to, and so it's just tomorrow I'm going to church, not tomorrow I'm going to the church. If you talk about the church as an entity, almost like a person, for example, you can say something like, let me write these examples. She goes to church on Sundays. The church is having, what do churches have? A second hand clothing sale on on Saturday. So you can see the difference. She goes to church on Sundays. The church is having a second-hand clothing sale on Sundays. So in the first sentence, when I talk about church, I'm just talking about the place where you go to pray, to worship God. The second sentence, I'm talking about church as if church is an entity, almost as if church is a person, if you like. And then in this case, I would use the church. Good. Hi, welcome. So, whoops. That is one difference. I'm not sure why this is. It's I've heard it many times with people who don't have English as a first language and try to use the article, but many people want to put the article in front of names, as in names of people, and names of cities, names of countries. You should not do this. With people, definitely not, unless you're talking about somebody who is, for example, as I said in the beginning, the Pope. There is only one of them. The Pope, the Prime Minister. In terms of maybe a company, you could say the managing director, the boss. But if you're going to use a name such as John, Peter, Frederick, you definitely do not use the article in front of somebody's name. So you can't say, and you shouldn't say anything like the Samantha is late for work. You don't do this. In terms of countries, cities and towns, cities, towns, villages, absolutely not. You do not use the article in front of cities and towns, so you don't say the Moscow, the London, the Oslo. You don't do this. Countries as well, unless the country is something like a state, as in the United States. We also have the United Kingdom, the United Arab Emirates, a republic as well. Now, some countries are, although they are republics, they are not called, for example, the Republic of Poland is just Poland. So some countries do not go by their, do not have republic, but we have, for example, the Czech Republic, and we say the Czech Republic. Of course, there are always exceptions when we're talking about countries. For example, some people, they just say US, should be the US, or UK, should be the UK. Some people just say Czech. We do say the Philippines. I'm not sure why, but we say the Philippines. We used to say the Ukraine, but I don't know why. That's changed, and we just say Ukraine now. We don't say the Ukraine. This is it changed a while back. Yes, so even languages can change. That we update things all the time in English. So yes, countries, towns, cities, unless they are republics or called in a specific way, then you don't need to. You shouldn't, I should say. Don't use the article. The superlative. So this, you need to use the article. For example, the best. The best soup in town. So he makes, or the restaurant makes, the best soup in town. The tallest boy in the class, the longest river in Germany, the tastiest ice cream I've ever eaten. So when we're using the superlative, then we need to use the article. We need to use the article because we're just talking about one again. And so it's important that we use the article. Also, you can use the article when you are, and this is the definite article, when you're talking about, actually this works both ways, but first I'm going to talk about the definite article when you're talking about everything that means the same as that thing, if that makes any sense. For example, so I can say something like this: the bumblebee makes honey. In this case, when I say the bumblebee, I actually mean all bumblebees. The bumblebee makes honey. The mobile phone gives us the opportunity to freely communicate with people. The heart pumps blood around the body. All hearts do this. The kangaroo can be found in Australia. When I talk about these things and I use the article in this way, then I'm talking about everything related to it. Also, for example, when you consider, how should I say? For example, Michael plays the piano. Now, even if I'm talking about a specific piano, I actually mean all pianos. The piano is a wonderful instrument. So is the guitar. Michael plays the piano, and Jennifer plays the guitar. And again, I mean has the ability to play all pianos or all guitars. Transport. Normally when we talk about transport, we don't use the article. For example, I need to get to town by bus. I'm going there by train, fly by plane. But if I'm speaking in a certain way and I'm talking about all buses, trains or planes, then I can use the article. So I can say, the train is the fastest way to travel to Glasgow. I don't mean any specific train when I mention this. I'm just saying in general, the train. Can we say train? It's a little bit, of course people understand, but it's a little bit awkward. It sounds completely incorrect if you don't use the article in this situation. Here's something interesting. Let's see, how can I, okay. Okay, two sentences here. There is a candle on TV and there is a candle on the TV. the first sentence, there is a candle on TV. This means that the screen, you're viewing a TV. You're viewing a TV. You're viewing a candle. There's a picture of a candle on TV. The second one, there is a candle on the TV. That means you have your TV, and on top of the TV is a candle. So it's quite common that people will make this mistake when we talk about certain things that, for example, you don't always have to introduce something for a person to understand that it exists, which means you don't need to use the indefinite article. Think of natural things, things that are common. I can say something like, okay, it would be quite strange if I had to say, I have a kitchen. In the kitchen is a sink. Most people, even if you share an apartment or a house, you have access to a kitchen, most people. And so this is something that you don't need to introduce. So if I'm telling you or talking about my apartment, I can say the kitchen's very nice. It has a very high ceiling, because you understand that I have a kitchen. Now, this is also interesting. Okay, go to the bed and go to bed. Now, go to the bed, that means that you're just going to go to the location where the bed is. It doesn't mean you're going to go to sleep. Go to bed means go to bed, to sleep. So completely different. Another common mistake that people often make is they say go to. Go to the home. We don't say go to the home. Simply, we say go home. I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home. And we also say go to work, not go to the work. A few other things, some other common mistakes that people can make with the article. We have space, we have room. So if I use an article in front of space, then I am talking about that there's a gap. For example, there is so I can say something like this. Sorry. So there is a space to park. In this case, it's also possible to say there's space to park. I can also say the space next to me is free. I can say the space next to me is free or available. The space next to me is free or available. Now I said, and I remember there are always exceptions in the English language, that when something is unique or if there's just one of them, we would use the definite article, the. But of course we have space up there. and we don't say the space, we just say space. There's only one, well, what we know, and we say space. Room is similar. I could say I have a room, but then when I remove the article and I say there is room, it's the same as there is space. There is a room next to me. Okay, moving on. There's a lot when it comes to the article. Moving on, you also need to consider countable and uncountable nouns. So, for example, if we talk about such nouns as money, luck, water, coffee, any uncountable nouns, we do not use the indefinite article anyway. So, for example, you can't say a money, you can't say a luck, you can't say a water, you can't say a coffee, because they are uncountable. So you would say some money, you would say some luck, some water, or you can say a glass of water or a bottle of water. Yes, of course. Now, it's possible to say I want a coffee, but if somebody says I want a coffee, I would like a coffee, this actually means this. I would like a cup of coffee. So if somebody says I would like a coffee, they mean I would like a cup of coffee. And it's the same if somebody says can I have a tea? It means can I have a cup of tea? And we have a little saying here. A cuppa is what we say. I would... Actually, I fancy a cuppa. I would love to have a cup of tea, is what that means. So, yes, so uncountable nouns, you don't use the indefinite article. You can, however, use the definite article. So you can say the money is on the table. Hi, welcome. The luck let's write the good luck. The good luck ran out. Hi, nice to see you. Better late than never, right? The good luck ran out. Yes, so it's possible to use the definite article when we are talking about when we're using uncountable nouns. We're looking at the article. Fortunately, I don't have so long left, but if you have any questions or want me to go over anything that I've talked about, then please ask. Talking about when to use, like I said, better late than never. I'll repeat some of it quickly before I finish as well, because we haven't had so many people tuning in, so I'll have the opportunity to repeat some of it. Also, that's right, one more thing I want to add is when we are looking at groups of people, we use the definite article as well. So I could say something like, whoops, the Irish. The handicapped. The elderly, and I mean all of them. So the Irish, the handicapped, the elderly, the rich, the poor, the geniuses, the unique, the children. When you put anything in a group like this, then you mean all of them. So we can say something like, life is not easy for the poor. Life is not easy for the poor. So when you group people and it's possible to use the definite article. So let me round some things up. So we have the definite article, indefinite article. When we the pronunciation, if there's a vowel sound, then it will be an. So we say an apple, and instead of spelled differently, an. When it's a vowel sound in front of the definite article, then the pronunciation becomes the. When you introduce a singular noun, then you would use the indefinite article. There is a bottle on the floor. Okay. Interestingly, when you talk about, I told you about things that you understand exist, and you don't need to say that there is a floor. We understand that there's a floor, but it's the bottle that's the interesting thing here. There is a bottle on the floor. And then as we continue talking about that singular noun, we use the definite article. There is a bottle on the floor. The bottle is transparent, or the bottle is empty. Talking about things that there are only one of, unique. The Pope, the Prime Minister of the UK, the Internet. These things are unique. The only thing, well, maybe not the only thing I can think of right now, we don't say the space, we just say space. Just one of those, but we just say space. The space means something else. When we are using the superlative, so we say the biggest, the best, the loudest, the prettiest, the ugliest, the strangest, we need to use the definite article in this case as well. Names of people, unless it's the king or the prime minister, no. So you don't say the Peter, the Paul, the Susan, the Jane. You just say Peter, Paul, Susan, Jane. Never put the article in front of this. Certain words have the article almost connected to them. This is why we say such things like the bank, the post office, what else do we say? The bank, the post office, the supermarket, the opera, the theatre. It's very unusual to talk about these things. At the cinema, of course, love the cinema. It's very unusual to talk about these things and not have the article connected. Certain things depending on the situation, will not have the article connected. I mentioned before school, college, university, nursery, church. They don't have the article connected because when we are talking about these places, we're not talking about the actual building. We are talking about what it is used for. So his sister goes to university. University, place of education. And we don't use the article here. If I were to say something, if I were talking about the building, then I would use the article. So I parked my car outside the university. So when I'm talking about the actual building, school, college, university, church, then I would use the article. I found £10 outside the church. He gave a £10 donation in church. So you can see the difference. What else? I didn't mention when we are talking about companies, organizations, we don't use the article, even websites, your social medias. We don't say the Facebook, we don't say the Instagram, we don't say the Twitter. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. The bigger companies, Apple, Samsung, Huawei, cars, Ford, Porsche, we don't use articles with any of these. Unless in the name it has an article. If there's no article in the name, then you don't use it. For example, it could be the Hilton Hotel. We say the Hilton Hotel because it's called the Hilton Hotel. Doesn't matter which one. Organizations, if they have a name, it could also be the United Nations. Again, you've got United, just like countries that I talked about, the United Kingdom, the United States, the Czech Republic. There are certain republics that don't really go by the name Republic. For example, the People's Republic of China. We don't say the People's Republic of China. We say China. It's a republic, but we say China. If you're talking about something and you're talking about all of that thing, I know that's difficult to understand. For example, a bike is a good way of getting from A to B and being environmentally friendly, say a bike. A mobile phone helps you keep in contact with people. And when I say a mobile phone, I mean all mobile phones. Yes, exactly. Just like that. What else? Of course, if you're talking about a family, that's also a group. We use the article. So we would say the Bushes, the Trumps, the Obamas, the Jacksons. Also a singing group. When we talk about a group of a family, then we use the article as well. What else? I think it's not everything, but it's it's a lot. Yes, and some things that are unique, and I'm talking about certain buildings, statues, the Eiffel Tower, the Empire State Building, the Taj Mahal, the Mona Lisa, because these things are well known and unique, we use the article with them as well. Okay, I understand how difficult, and I really do understand how difficult it can be to know when to and when not to use the article. And when you're talking about a group or family, what verb? Yes, you use the plural. So we would put, for example, just like the singing group. Like that. The Jacksons. Or I could say something like the Trumps. Are coming to dinner. The Trumps are coming to dinner, and by this I mean the family Trumps. No, the Trumps are not coming to dinner. I don't know if I'd invite them. Anyway, that's a different story. Thank you guys for today. I hope you found it useful. Articles is something that this topic is something that is going to go on and on and on because it's so difficult for so many people. You're welcome. And in the not too far distant future, we'll go through it again. Let's say to brush up on. To brush up on. When you brush up on something, then you renew it to make sure you can remember it. So hopefully I will be with you next Monday. You're welcome. I'm going to have an operation, so I'm unsure, but hopefully I want to be here next Monday. Let's put it that way. So thank you very much. I'm happy that you could join me today. Enjoy the rest of your week and see you again soon. Take care now. Bye bye.